What we're doing is, in essential, calling a member to penalize for different reasons. It could be for different reasons. In this reason, it would be against our organization's beliefs or values. It can be against violating morals. It can be fraud, lying, disloyalty. First, we have to name the person, which has been done. Second, the bad nature that has occurred, or the bad behavior that has occurred, should be brought to attention. From there, it's moved to censure, which has happened. A second has occurred. This is amendable. This is debatable. It requires a majority vote to pass. The person being censured does not vote, but does have the right to debate. Other than that, is there any questions?
Okay, right now it's questions over what censure means, and then we'll move into questions. So, Senator Knudsen.
Yeah, my question is what censure?
Okay, I don't know what the thing. Okay, to censure a member, here's an official definition. To censure a member or an officer is to warn him or her that certain behavior continues. The next step is suspension or expulsion. That's the definition. Possible motions that assemblies can make include a motion that the member must apologize. The motion that the member must leave the hall during the remainder of the meeting in which an act occurs. A motion to censure the member. A motion to suspend the member's rights for a designated period of time. Or a motion to expel the member from the organization. And right now, we have a motion on the floor to censure the member, which is to warn him or her of certain behaviors. And the next step is expulsion or suspension.
So it's a formal warning, is really what it is. Further questions, Senator Dugan.
In regards to it, considering it belongs to parliamentary procedure, does it only pertain to here, or does it pertain to outside of Senate?
If another act occurred?
Yes.
This can happen through anyone outside of Senate also. Yes. And it can be a ballot vote if so desired, but that would have to be stated. Right now it would be just a regular majority vote.
To clarify, I read through it a little bit myself. Like Caitlin said, this is a formal warning, and it's not to suspend or expel anybody currently, but once again, if the act occurs again, you can wish to do that.
Do you have another question, Deb?
Yeah.
Okay.
So at this point in time, we cannot motion to suspend or expel?
No.
Correct.
Okay. So now everyone is clear on what censure means. So we will go into questions over why this was done, if you would like to do that.
Can she explain her?
Yes.
Just explain it all.
Senator Murphy was trying to make a point that banning words isn't the correct approach to tackling intercultural understanding and acceptance. I agree with him. According to his comments on the Daily Nebraska Q&A article, Senator Murphy understands that what he said was offensive. He is also correct in saying that people can exercise their freedoms to be offensive. We also have the right to exercise our ability of kindness. Just because we have the freedom to be offensive doesn't mean our words and actions don't have consequences. What Senator Murphy does not understand was that he voluntarily joined ASUN and therefore accepted the writing and the intent of the diversity statement in ASUN bylaws, which mandates ASUN will be sensitive to the needs of juvenile students, be a strong advocate for minority and underrepresented student issues, ensure all students are afforded personally agree with the executive committee's decision to not remove Senator Murphy from office. I can't speak for the people who voted to not remove Senator Murphy, but I feel that a removal sends the incorrect message that ASUN deals with deals with cultural intolerance by pushing the issue out of sight and out of mind. Racism does happen and is happening on this campus. We should not strive to be colorblind, rather practice color appreciation, which occurs through education about individual cultures and their histories. Everyone, including myself, needs to be more educated about other cultures, and only through education can we get respect and understanding. Senator Murphy is the type of person we want to target, as is the person who is responsible for sidewalk shopping, as is everyone in this room and on this campus. Anyone who uses the N-word casually, including African Americans, need to search for a more accurate description of what they need to convey. The N-word does have a meaning. It means nothingness, not human, and not with respect. If that is what people intend to convey, then use the word. If not, then expand your vocabulary. Say what you mean and mean what you say. I truly hope Senator Murphy did not mean to be offensive. Even so, the judgment of offense isn't from the speaker, but rather the listener. People have taken offense to Senator Murphy's comments. Acting as an ASUN senator, this offensive speech is not acceptable. Therefore, I believe a censure of Senator Murphy's speech is needed. I also encourage Senator Murphy to take a leadership role in upcoming cultural understanding events to educate our fellow students. Senator Murphy affirmed in the DN Q&A article that he does not share the same ignorant mindset as the sidewalk shoppers. Therefore, I think Senator Murphy has a responsibility as a student body representative and leader on campus to make sure his message he shared in the interview of treating everyone with the same respect is heard and understood on this campus and beyond.
Now, opening up to questions. Seeing none, we will move into debate. External story.
Yep. In the rules, as Senator Peters said, a vote of censure is saying that if that behavior continues or happens again, then there's disciplinary sanctions. How I interpret a censure myself, and it doesn't have to be what everyone interprets it, is that as a Senate body, you're voting to say that, no, this speech is not acceptable. And Senator Yan mentioned this in her reasoning, but this type of speech is not acceptable at our table, in our lives, and I definitely think this should be something that should be done and to put in our voters for future years.
Senator Hines. I move for a roll call vote. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Senator Paul, we are still in debate.
About the general thing, not the roll call vote. Yeah, now a roll call vote.
So, by Annie doing that right now, she is ceasing debate. She is called for a roll call vote to cease
See,
debate.
I thought
Now,
that was when it happened, she wasn't meaning to do that.
Oh, when? Okay, well, still.
So,
Yeah.
we'll pretend like they happened later.
Yeah, okay.
I was like, I didn't think that was your intention.
Okay, I did not hear the word again. I'm sorry. I thought.
Senator Colors.
I just want to say, I guess I'm just saying this to say this because I agree that actions should be taken. But our bylaws make it a little tricky for action to immediately be taken, which is frustrating in this instance for a number of us at the table. But the other thing is that the bylaws exist because, I mean, democracy itself sort of exists to protect minority opinions. And in this case, unfortunately, the minority opinion is hurtful to many students at the university who are supposed to be representing. So I'm glad we're following the bylaws, however, because in the instance that the majority of Senate was wrong, which is completely possible, and someone who is speaking the right voice and is in the minority, this is protecting that in the future, I guess is what I'm trying to say, because I think sometimes we've gotten a little frustrated with ASUN and the Senate, and I wasn't at the executive committee hearings, but we've gotten frustrated with how that operates, and it is a frustrating thing, but it's there because in some instances it's protecting individuals who are speaking out. And in the past, I mean, in the broader history of our country, that has been a good thing. So I don't know. I just wanted to say that. I am glad we're taking some sort of action, but just to keep in mind, I guess, that the protections of the bylaws can go both ways.
Senator Duden.
I more or less have a question for clarification. Well, in regards to parliamentary procedure, does there need to be a remark made at the point in time where the occurrence first occurs in order for a censure to be brought up, or is it just a censure happens after any act determined by the individual?
And if I just say this wrong, correct me. But when I was reading through it, you can bring things to censure that did not occur in meeting, therefore it does not have to occur directly at that point in time. Steve Nelson.
I guess I just want to start off by saying thank you to Senator Young. I think she brings up an important point for the Senate to think about, and for that certain senator in which it's regarding, I would encourage that person to really take to heart what she was saying and really look into the decisions that they have made and the amount of impact they've had, not only on the university, but which is reflected student government as a whole. And I think a lot of times that we get so narrow focused, and I guess basically what I'm going to point out is that there is the bigger picture and a bigger movement, I guess, going on.
In response to the protecting the minority opinion vote in just general proceedings, I believe that's an argument for the censure because it's very appropriate for this situation and a future situation for protecting the minority opinion. It is a formal, progressive disapproval. It's a warning. It allows for possible rehabilitation and education instead of just punishing right away. And I don't know if you guys got that from what I mentioned before, but I think that's the main reason why censure is so important. It's because our goal isn't to just shove these issues away and to punish them directly because we're not like changing those people's opinions. We want to take, I hope that we take this opportunity to really push education and understanding as opposed to just punishment.
Senator Bredesen.
Kind of right off on what's been said. I think condemning Senator Murphy's actions is a necessary step. We need to make it clear to him, as well as other senators in the student body, that we don't condone his use of derogatory terms, but also that the statements made in his interview really work to undermine the seriousness and pervasiveness of racism and racial bias. But it can't just stop at punishment or condemnation. I think it's tempting as a group to think of this as an us versus him situation, where we're saying that he's the only one in the wrong and everyone else in the system is okay and perfect. And so we can't use his punishment as a scapegoat, as a way to say that now everything is okay because we punished him. Because the problem is just greater than Senator Murphy's opinions. If you look to his interview and the comments he made regarding colorblindness, by saying that you don't see race means you are kind of denying the existence of systematic racism. You're also trivializing the experiences of a minority group that are being affected and denying that we do have a long way to go. So the thing is, I'm sure a lot of people in the room have subscribed to that mindset in the past, or maybe right now, and not out of maleficence, I think out of ignorance. Our culture is indoctrinated with these mindsets, and it takes conscious action and education to overcome. But I think as senators, we have that responsibility to do that for ourselves. And I'm not saying, I have answers, and I won't pretend to. I definitely support all the cultural competency training for senators, as well as ASUN needs to move farther beyond that and look to NSC and whatever we can do to educate students in general. But I just want to emphasize that we can't come out of this meeting thinking that justice has been served and now we can go back to normal. I think we just need to realize that what was normal is not okay. So I agree this is an important step, but it by no means a resolution of the issue.
Senator Huff.
I just really like what a lot of people have said, that this is kind of our point to move forward. I think it's very clear that there's a lot of really intense emotion involved in the situation, and a lot of people have been hurt, and a lot of people are frustrated, a lot of people are angry, and people handle that in many different ways. But I think you can look at this group of people, and I think right here we're addressing this situation as one, like Jeff said, cohesive body, and I think that's what the students want to see. That's what I've heard people saying that who have been really affected by this, and I think that by doing this, I think it's kind of like a positive way to move forward. I think that's us saying that we are coming together and we're putting aside the conflict and we're finding a way to address the issue, which I think is what the people that we are representing want to see. And I think that's something that I really would like us to be able to focus on, is looking at this from a positive way of we have an opportunity in front of us to make a really big difference right now, so that we can kind of put our differences aside and maybe sometimes agree to disagree, but find a way to move forward. We have a lot of potential right now.
I was just going to clarify that, yes, I am in support of the censure, and what I was saying before, like, this is a good step to be taking that is in line with our bylaws, because I don't think it would be good to, like, sort of disregard or try to circumvent those. Also, I was just going to say that as a member of DSCC, like, I feel like we've been having lots of discussions and have been trying to talk more and increase communication between ASUN and minority student groups on campus. And so, coming from DSCC, I do think that although the comments were a big deal and should be addressed, I personally would really like to not put this behind us, because I feel like that's sort of brushing it off, but like have it in our mind as we're moving forward. But there are so many other opportunities, and I would really like to work on like programming and other things that we've been having discussions with to, as Senator Roderson was saying, like fix the bigger issue, because this is really just a symptom of a bigger problem on campus. And so I would really push for working towards that, because there are systematic problems going on and just other issues that need to be addressed and would prevent these types of issues in the future. Because I don't think that we should blame someone for everything, that a single person for all the problems going on campus.
Senator Action.
What I'd like to say is not a personal argument for or against. I have some outside perspective that may help guide some people in making a decision with their vote, maybe not, that's up to you. But I've spoken to some graduate students in the history department, graduate students that teach women and gender studies, Native American studies, Jewish studies classes. Some students whose emphasis is oppression and genocide and some of those things. And the consensus from those that I've spoken to, which I can't tell you what kind of representation that is other than what I just gave you, is that censoring is the action they would like to see me taken. So I don't know if that will help anybody with their decision or not, but that's just a little outside perspective.
Senator McKeever.
I yield my time to Senator Yen.
So I would like to address what I mentioned before, my description about the executive decision, just in regards to that. It's not really reflective in the press, the reasoning, and I'd like to believe that the people who voted to keep Senator Murphy don't align themselves in thought with him. The people on the exec committee can't express their opinions because it was a closed private session. But I would like this opportunity, this time, to be a way to regardless of race. And then if they personally have, something you're not very fond of, then you can regard them as such. They're treating them as individuals. That was also included in the Q&A. And that is why I believe that Senator Murphy was using those words in an inappropriate way to make a point, which is still reprimandable, but I don't think he has the same malicious views as a sidewalk talker and as the same as what we kind of assume that he has. And I hope that he speaks to defend his actions.
Senator Kingston.
Move to roll call.
Oh, I was gonna say something, but let breakfast get done.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Is there objection to calling the question?
Yes. Yes,
Yes.
I
There's
object.
objection. Okay, we'll move back into debate.
Actually, parliamentary procedure-wise, we're going to use this as a teaching moment. So what's happened is that someone has objected to call the question. So it takes a 2/3 vote to overrule that. So if you have to vote since someone has objected, and then you move forward. If it votes for or against. So motion,
Are we voting for the override or are we voting for the roll call vote?
you're good. There's objection to calling the question. You're voting to call the question. So yes is to call the question, no is to move back into the.
The question is the roll call vote.
No.
It's, if you want to roll call vote.
Yes, we need to go vote. No, we need to go back into debate.
We are going to do a hand vote so that I can count, because it has to be 2/3. So, a vote yes, we will go back into debate. All in favor?
That's backwards.
A vote no.
A vote yes calls to question and then they'll move back to debate.
So if you'd like to vote yes, please raise your hand. If you'd like to vote no, please raise your hand. Okay, we'll move back into debate. Senator Murphy.
All right, so I'd like to thank Senator Yan for reading the piece. I know it's a bit garbled at times. It's hard to chase around a 2-year-old while you're trying to give an interview. But there's a few things I've learned from this experience. First of all, some of the advice I think I was given by some of my teammates a long time ago when I was an undergraduate was probably incorrect. Once upon a time, when I was a freshman, they told me that they were complaining. They said, if someone wants to say, instead of saying the N-word, why don't you just say the word? So I figured that that's the way everybody felt, but apparently that's incorrect. When I talked to Dr. Perlman, I asked him, I said, I don't understand how a group can take ownership of a word, and just intellectually, I don't understand that. And he told me, well, you don't because you're not, you can't say because you're not black. And I said, well, that doesn't make any sense. And so I just chalk it up as something I'll never understand intellectually, and because it's an emotional argument. So it's something that I know that I was going to, and I would love to learn from other points of view to try to figure that out, because I'm a pretty left-brain kind of person. But when I say the whole point of the debate initially was completely lost because of my choice of words. So it's sort of like what happened nationally with the Republicans. Tactics screwed up the message, and it ended up triggering a cascade of events that resulted in a new campaign, which, as I understand from Dr. Crone, is something that's probably going to happen next semester regardless, because of the instances that have been occurring on campus, and it just got triggered a little early. But when people read that, when I said people need to grow up, there's a lot of people that made that really seemed to stick. That was the one thing that they pulled out, and there was another kind of instance where you have one word, or in this case 2 words, that people read, they don't read the whole thing. And the reason I said that was because in life, it doesn't have to be a racial word, it could be someone questioning your intellect, you do something dumb and everyone knows you did something dumb, and it's like, I do a lot of stupid things, I'll be the first to admit it, as we all know. And if someone in a big crowd says, hey, dumbass, I'm what? Talking to me? When we talk about, so now we have this new debate that's gone from, censoring of language, which I still say is inherently, evil. That's the word I use very intently. It sort of harkens back to Ronald Reagan when we talk about the evil empire. And that's why it's akin to, that's why I said it's akin to the Soviet Union anytime you have speech codes, which is why I was so adamant against the piece of legislation originally, which passed, which is fine. And even though it doesn't carry that much teeth, it was more of a philosophical debate, which I thought was important. Unfortunately, my delivery was not that good. One thing I would ask the African Peoples Union and other students is, when we talk about this word, is it okay if I'm reading a book and it has in it, say something like the narrative of Frederick Douglass, where the word is mentioned many times from one of the greatest emancipators in our history, one of the most, certainly one of the most revered of the black leaders that we've had in our country's history. When I read that, if I were to read it out loud in a reading, I don't know, if I'm a white person, should I take that out? Should I say the N-word rather than saying the word itself as written? And it's a serious question. And this is a question I had for Dr. Perlman. He said, we can't say it because you're not black. And I still, like I said, I still don't understand that. I never will. And so I've been trying to make amends as best I can. So I, because now it's like it's starting graduate school, so I got to meet with Perez, and I had to go talk to my chairman because it gets drugged through the media, and they get questions, and it causes more work. Because I've caused a giant headache all the way around. But I think we're going to have an interesting debate on campus because one of the things that my father pointed out when he first came to Nebraska, he went to Hastings Colleges like I did, and he came from Phoenix. And the high school he went to was large Hispanic population. And one of the things that he observed when he came to Nebraska was he said, it's the most racist place I've ever been, the state. But it's not out of hate. It's out of ignorance, because you have a lot of people who come from small towns who've never seen a black person before. Literally. So the only thing you know is from what you read in the news or what your parents have told you, you've never met anybody. And I think that's changed somewhat over, since I was back in the 80s, over the years, things changed. So, I think I look forward to having this debate. And, one thing I would strongly encourage, as far as representation on this body is, I don't know how many minority students ran. I don't know if we have those numbers, but I would encourage you, run, be active. If you want your voice to be heard, you have to be active in the mainstream.
Can you make a point relevant to the censure motion?
Oh, sorry, I was talking, I get sidetracked a lot, that's another problem of mine. But no, I think I've learned a bit, and, when I say I try to treat everyone equal, that's the God's honest truth right there. Because, everyone's their own person, is unique, right? And so we all have the same 23 chromosomes in duplicate. And so, at our core, we're all exactly the same, and differences are things that you choose to see, not things that are necessarily there. And I think that's one thing that on campus we have to strive for, is that's diversity from my perspective now that we're in this new debate. It's not a numbers game, because you're never going to have, quote, equal representation at a place like Nebraska, given the demographics. It's just not going to happen. But what we can do is we can treat everyone the same. And that's top to bottom, no matter where you come from, your religion, your gender, your skin color, it doesn't matter.
Let's keep it to the censure motion.
Okay. So anyway, but yeah, censure's fine. That makes sense. I made a mistake. I'm paying for it. You know, even ignorance of the law is not an excuse, right? So, you know, don't do the time. Don't do the crime. You don't want to do the time. So, I'd like to thank Senator again for actually bringing this motion so we can have this little debate here. And I really wish more people would have stayed because I think it's helpful. And, you know, this is the start, I think, of a dialogue that, from what I understand from a multitude of people, that is something that we need to have. And I think it'll be good. You know, next semester, people can cool off kind of with finals and Christmas. We come back and we have a nice discussion about this as a campus. So, with that, I'll go ahead and we'll want to move to a roll call vote.
Senator Hines, you can take this up.
First, I'd just like to say, Caitlin, he did have the ability to ask for the roll call vote and debate, and is there a second? Seeing no second, we'll go back into debate.
I would just like to point out one thing before I say some other things. Just to point out, quoting Chancellor Perlman is hearsay, so, and that's not, I mean, just from a legal standpoint, that's something that's not admissible, so just to know that those words could be skewed. Also, I think one of the biggest issues is that there's been a lack of responsibility taken, and there's also been a lack of apology. There's been a lot of passing responsibility, saying that use of the N-word came from advice your freshman year of during a freshman year of college, something that intellectually is just hard to understand. And what I would suggest is the Q&A that occurred in the Daily Nebraskan. I think that in order to understand what happened, to take that to someone that can go through it point by point and explain why certain things are so offensive. And to minimize reactions by saying they're emotional is very inappropriate, and it steals very real feelings and emotions and sentiments that come from use of such derogatory, hateful language. And so I think that, yes, this is a learning opportunity, but that needs to start with taking responsibility for actions. I move for a roll call vote.
Is there any objection? With that, we will go into a roll call vote. The vice brothers are not here. Senator Brennan. I'm sorry, a yes is in favor of censure and a no is not in favor. So, yes. Senator Andrews, yes. Senator Lauren Andrews, yes. Senator Atherton,
Yes.
Senator Broderson, Senator Biles,
Yes.
Senator Cooper,
Yes.
Senator Davis, Senator Dubois,
Yes.
Senator Duden. Okay. Senator Ekstrom.
Yes.
Philman.
Yes.
Garrison.
Yes.
Stefan.
Yes.
Hines.
Yes.
Howeiler.
Yes.
Huff.
Yes.
Knutson.
Yes.
Collars. Yes.
Yes.
Sorry. Cruz.
Yes.
Leftenberg.
Yes.
Manning.
Yes.
McKeever.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Pestle.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Costello.
Yes.
Resnick.
Yes.
Stokes.
Yes.
And Yen. Okay. With that, everyone who is reading has voted yes, so censure does take place. Is there any further new business? Seeing no further new business, we will move into announcements. President Resnick.
Just next to follow this meeting, remember to turn in your forms that I handed out, the survey, and then, because this is, they will meet one last time, a couple days before, but the executive team and a few others will be traveling to So provide us with your thoughts, ideas, opportunities. We're going to meet with the rest of the different schools, industry, governments. It's a really great way. I've been to a couple now to see it shaped into a true way to gather ideas and compare and talk amongst ourselves. So make sure you let us know your